Welcome back. Good Friday morning, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. I'm Maria Bartiromo, and it is Friday, February 6th. It is 7 a.m. on the button on the East Coast. Coming up this hour, in just a moment, I'll talk with Pennsylvania Senator Dave McCormick. And then at 7:20, don't miss the Word on Wall Street panel with Payne Capital Management President Ryan Payne and the Lonsky Group founder John Lonsky. At 7:30, don't miss my special interview with former State Department Senior Advisor Christian Whiten. All that coming up. But first, there's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent urging the passage of a stalled crypto market bill during Senate banking hearing yesterday. Watch this.
What is your opinion about the importance of having clear rules of the road, market structure legislation in the United States?
Look, I think that it's impossible to proceed without it. We have to get this Clarity Act across the finish line, and any market participants who don't want it should move to El Salvador. There seem to be people who want to live in the U.S. but not have rules for this important industry, and we've got to bring safe, sound, and smart practices and the oversight of the U.S. government, but also allow for the freedom that is crypto. And I think it's a balance that is being worked out. It was worked out in the Genius Act, and I'm confident with leadership of people on both sides of the aisle that we can get clarity across the line this year.
And this comes as the White House officials met with crypto industry executives and banking associations this week in an effort to break the Senate stalemate holding up this legislation. The major impasse centers on whether crypto exchanges should be allowed to offer customer rewards on stablecoins held on their platforms. U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission Chairman Paul Atkins will join me this morning at 8 a.m. Eastern with more on the Clarity Act and the digital assets legislation to come. Joining me now, though, first is Pennsylvania Senator Dave McCormick. He's a member of the Senate Banking Committee. Senator, it's always a pleasure. Thanks so much for being here.
Good morning.
Always great to talk with you. And I thought we'd start right there on this crypto legislation. What are your thoughts on the importance of this and what's holding up? What is the stalemate? Is it largely those rewards?
Yeah, this is, stepping back, it is so important that we have a framework because this is a huge area of innovation. The crypto blockchain industry has huge job opportunities in Pennsylvania. It's going to create enormous investment and innovation. But we do have to have a regulatory framework that gives consumers confidence, that ensures that fraudulent and money laundering activities not taking place, and also gives investors confidence. So I think we've got a pathway here. The balance is, of course, making sure that that framework exists and that the rewards for crypto are creating the right incentives, but also that we're ensuring that we don't have depository flight, and in particular, these local banks, the community banks, which I met with recently in Fulton County. We want to make sure that we're not in some way disadvantaging lending for small businesses and farmers and so forth. So there's a balancing act. I think there's a path ahead, but we got to keep focused on it.
Yeah, and that's why I really wanted to get your take on this, because before coming to the Senate, you were a business person, and so you can see all angles of this. The banks are saying, look, you know, the crypto platform should not be able to pay customers to take money out of their, you know, traditional banking account, their deposit account, and putting in the crypto platforms. That's a real allure, paying customers with rewards, and those companies don't have the same regulations that the banks face. So what's your take on that? What kind of regulations are you looking for the crypto platform so that it is, in fact, a fair playing field?
Well, I think the question is all around yield and those rewards, and how do you have the balance where you have rewards in the crypto space that aren't going to be disadvantageous to banking, and in particular how to ensure that banks can compete in a way that's going to be advantageous for them too. This is a whole new world, and we need to ensure there's great competition and great opportunity. For me, the issue is that if the banks are holding stable coins, there's a question of how the lending ratios are going to work and whether the communities can still have the amount of loans to small businesses. So that's a particular focus where if deposits are even in the community banks and stablecoin, that they won't have the same lending capacity. So there's a set of balancing considerations, and I think that's the debate that's going on right now. The White House is deeply involved, which I think is a good step.
Yeah, and yesterday we spoke with Cynthia Lummis, your colleague, who, of course, is the head of the Digital Asset Subcommittee. Here's what she said. Watch. What kind of regulation would you propose for the crypto platforms? Should they be allowed to pay those rewards?
Provisions in the Genius Act for stablecoins is that they have 100% reserves all the time. And of course, banks get to use fractional reserves. They don't have to have 100% of reserves. And so the stablecoin world is already, I would argue, being treated very differently and required to have 100% reserves. So they don't need insurance. They're already fully backed. And one of the things that's done is create a brand new market for U.S. Treasuries. And we needed that, Maria, because as you know, as the United States continues to accumulate debt, the people who are interested in buying our debt gets thinner and thinner. So it's just been a wonderful asset for placement of U.S. Treasuries, and it's helped buoy up our Treasury markets.
Senator, I want to move on to Kevin Warsh and the Homeland Security situation. But real quick, when would you expect this markup to happen? Is this now a March, April affair?
Well, I think we'll see it this spring. I agree with the Secretary that it's absolutely imperative that we move on this legislation. This is a huge new horizon of innovation, but we're still in the middle of a very significant set of negotiations. We're close, but we're not there yet.
All right, Senator, what's your take on this pushback from Tom Tillis? He's holding on to this threat that he's going to block President Trump's nominees for the Fed, certainly the chairman of the Federal Reserve, Kevin Warsh, unless the investigation into Jay Powell is dropped. I spoke with Senate Banking Committee Chairman Tim Scott. He oversaw the June hearing at the center of this probe. He joined me on this program this week. Watch this.
I was the one asking the questions. Jay Powell was responding to me. Obviously, he and I have very, very strong disagreements on many issues, number one. Number two, I believe that it's time for a new federal chair, and thank God Almighty we're getting ready to get one. Number three, I found him to be inept at doing his job, but ineptness or being incompetent is not a criminal act. I believe what he did was made a gross error in judgment. He was not prepared for that hearing. I do not believe that he committed a crime during the hearing.
So you think at the end of the day, Tom Tillis will vote to confirm Kevin Warsh?
I'm sure Tom Tillis will want to be on your show to say it himself, but my conversations with him, very productive.
Senator, what are the odds that Kevin Warsh gets confirmed, and when are you expecting that confirmation process to begin?
Well, I think the president made a stellar choice. I've known Kevin for years. I worked with him when I was Undersecretary of Treasury. He was the Fed governor at the time. He's got all the right experiences. He's equipped for the job, and he's also got a reformer's heart for reforming the Fed, which is very necessary. I agree with the chairman. I don't think Chairman Scott, I don't think Chairman Powell conducted any criminal activity. I think the oversight of the building and all of that should be taken care of by the Banking Committee. We should hold him and the Fed to account. And I think it'd be a mistake and unfair to the president, unfair to Kevin Warsh, and unfair to the country to hold up his hearing on the basis of those charges against Chairman Powell, which I don't think are warranted. So I'm optimistic we'll move forward on it. I haven't talked to Senator Tillis about it, but I think there's a good path here, and I think we need to move quickly because the president and the markets and America needs a new Fed chair.
And of course, you've had a long and esteemed career. When you were Undersecretary of Treasury, you saw the back and forth between Republicans and Democrats in the Senate and in the Congress largely. But now we're here once again facing issues around funding. Senate Majority Leader John Thune is warning serious negotiations have yet to begin. And we're 1 week away from a, once again, potential shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security. Senate lawmakers left Washington for a long weekend as funding for the Department of Homeland Security is expiring next Friday. Where is this going in your view? Do you expect that we're going to see the department closed down? It's going to have a lot of impact from travel to FEMA and beyond.
Yeah. This is really unfortunate. I will never vote to shut down the government or part of the government. It can't be used as political leverage. What's happening now is political theater. With the Democrats not moving on the DHS funding, there's two things that you need to know and your viewers need to know. Number one, much of DHS and certainly ICE and the Border Patrol are already funded through the Working Families Tax Cut Act. So this isn't going to affect them in really any way at all. And second, the reforms, or many of the reforms that the Democrats are arguing for, body cams, adequate funding for oversight of detention centers, training for de-escalation, all those things were already in the DHS appropriations bill, which the House passed and the Senate committee passed. So this is really a political exercise. It'd be irresponsible because, as you say, the Coast Guard, FEMA, and the Secret Service would be affected. It'd be a terrible mistake. I'm hoping we can find a way through this. The White House is negotiating with Chuck Schumer at this moment, and I'm hoping we can have cooler minds prevail.
All right, we'll be watching your work on that. Senator, it's always a pleasure to see you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, Senator Dave McCormick in Pennsylvania. We'll be right back.